Hey, what's up everyone? It's Duskmos, and today we're taking a look at the Disturbance from Death by Audio. So the Disturbance is a lockable LFO modulator, and what that means is it's a modulation pedal that has phasing, flanging, and filtering that has an LFO that will modulate your frequencies, but then you can freeze it at any point in time on that ramp while it's LFOing. And once it's frozen at that point in time, you can unfreeze it and it'll continue on with that ramping. And it's cool because it allows you to kind of have that extra level of variation, especially if you have like the speed cranked or something crazy. You can just freeze it and get a steady tone that is still impacted with either the filter point, flanging, or phaser settings, but then you can release it and then let that LFO run wild again. So really, really cool, and I could totally see this being used in a lot of applications where you want to kind of stop and start that motion, which is cool and pretty unique. I don't think anything else that I've seen does this as it does, at least not in pedal format that I've seen. So I feel like that really makes the Disturbance really unique. So control-wise, Tensity is kind of like think of it as like low pass, high pass almost, but it also has a lot to do with resonance. Like it's a pretty resonant situation up here. So when you dial it in this negative territory, it becomes like a low pass, and you can really boost some of the low end on these peaks when the modulation kind of does its thing. And then when you go right of center, and there's a detent here, which is cool, so you know kind of where home is, it starts to become more of a high pass and can get pretty intense. And in both directions, I've kind of gotten it to actually scream at me a little bit, which is cool. You can definitely push this thing. And it's always just kind of fun seeing where the limits are on different pedals. Center point, as you can see, kind of here, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but it kind of illustrates where the peak frequency band is. So like, this furthest all the way. This side is boosting the low. Here you've got like more of a wider low mid notch, and then as you cross 12 o'clock, you go into that sort of higher mid notch and then super high. So that'll help you kind of dial in what sort of band you're targeting when you're setting this up. Width is basically the really the kind of the span of the LFO. So the more you have it dialed, the more the peaks and troughs are. I feel like the deeper it goes into the frequency modulations. And then as you go towards zero, it kind of thins it out, and it does impact the frequency band less. So it's less extreme. So if you want to just dial in like a subtle modulation, you would kind of keep the width pretty low, and then you can target a specific frequency range, but make it subtly modulated instead of all the way over here where it's like really, really deep modulations. Speed, of course, is the speed of the LFO. And then here, yeah, this is where you lock, like freeze and unfreeze the LFO, bypass. And then you've got your selector here on a little toggle between phaser, flanger, and filter. All right, now that you know how it works and what it is and all those good things, let's get it hooked up and hear how it sounds. Okay, so I've got the Disturbance paired up with the Model Cycles from Elektron, the little FM groove box. That's a lot of fun. And I'm coming out mono from the Model Cycles, just out of the, I believe, what is the left output, and then going into the input of the Disturbance, then out mono into the TX6 from Teenage Engineering, and then out to my camera. So as you can see, I've pretty much got everything set to noon here, and this little toggle is set to phaser. So leftmost position is phaser, middle is flanger, and then all the way to the right is filter. To kick things off, I always start with my clean pattern, which sounds like this. Pretty simple with that weird metallic crash delay thing going on. And let's engage the Disturbance. So now you can hear it phasing, which is cool. It definitely filtered out some of those highs, so that metallic bit doesn't sound as intense. Bypass. But of course, being a death by audio pedal, this thing can get crazy as much as you'd like it to. So let's see what it can do. So you can go, by changing the intensity, you can go to a really like high resonant filter kind of sound. Change the center point. Just kind of get your own sweeps here. You can really make this thing scream if you want to. I'll save you a little bit of that, but we'll get just to the edge. Pretty cool. One thing I like about this actually is it's pretty usable, I'm finding. Like, I really like the kind of slow rates. So you can really slow it down and just get a lot of change over time. As I kind of went over, that's reflected by the LED here. Which I think sounds really nice. Slowed it all the way down. Which is really cool, really useful. I think if you go super fast sometimes, it's a little bit much. If there is such a thing. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Again, right on the edge of just completely screaming at us. If you ever find yourself in that position, you can kind of just tweak the center point if the frequencies are getting too freaky for you. So again, we'll bypass. So we're working with clean. And now with some phasing from the disturbance. So it's cool. It's like when you go to the right of center, as I mentioned, this has like a center detent on the intensity or tensity, as it's labeled. This kind of is like a high pass, and then this way is like a low pass. So you can get some of those more chill vibes. But what's cool is you can hear it's definitely giving, again, that kind of boost at the edge of the resonant frequency. So you can really kind of boost some bass if you need to, or boost some of the high ends depending on where you have the center point set and the intensity. And then the width as well. So you can see when you up the width, you really hear it diving deeper and coming out of those pits quite a bit more. And so I think of width almost as like a depth of LFO. As you back off the width, the intensity change of the LED kind of illustrates that it's not traveling as far between the peaks and the valleys, if you want to think of it that way. But what's cool about the disturbance is you have this thing going, have some high depth going, have it sweeping a lot, and then you hit this one, and then you see this goes red, and it's now locked in. So you kind of kill the LFO when you do that. But what's cool is then it just turns these into like manual controls that can kind of work independently of the LFO controlling any of it. So if you want something more static, just to kind of craft the tone, you can do that, which is really cool. And then at any time, just press the button, and then you're back into LFO land, which is legit. I think it's really cool. All right, so we're gonna swap over from Fazer now to Flanger. Again, here you can really hear it right on that edge. It's that comb filtering resonance kind of thing. That's wild. It almost sounds like vowel tones, like a robot singing. Actually, it reminds me of the Teenage Engineering Choir, if you've listened to those. Those little wooden statues. Pretty cool. Bring the width up so we can hear the LFO really coming into play. Really fast speed. It's going nuts now. Go all the way up. There's a little bit of a crispiness going on. Maybe because I have it a little hot going in. It's already cleaned up a little bit. We're just gonna embrace it today though. 'Cause Death by Audio, pretty sure would approve. So again, we'll freeze this. And you've locked in wherever you were in that ramp. And you can see even when it's frozen, the LED responds. I don't know if it showed up on camera, but the brightness definitely responds to your center point position. So again, really useful for dialing in a specific sound if you're looking for that. And if you want to let it go, back to LFO territory. So that's super cool if you have like a, chorus verse kind of thing or whatever, you have it doing its thing here and then freeze it in, let it go, lock it in. And just find good moments to bring it in, drop it in, drop it out. Really cool. All right, let's hop over to filter. So probably the tamest of the bunch, but maybe the most useful. Well, obviously, depending on your use case, but filter's a little more commonplace effect in our world, I would say, than phasing and flanging. Flanging. But, you know, cool to have the options, always. So you can hear the filter really digs in, especially with this width up high. So you really hear that resonant filtering action, especially when the intensity is in the positive direction. You can also go pretty nuts going in the negative. You get some big distortion there. Let's embrace it. We'll turn it down a little bit. We'll see what we can do. Some crazy UFO stuff. Alright, bring it back. Again, you can hear the speed can go really far, really fast, all the way down to a real gentle slope. Which sounds really nice. Also cool that there's a CV out jack, so you can run this out to other gear and have it be controlled by the disturbance, which is really awesome. And again, we bypass. You can see the light still goes through its cycle because obviously the pedal is still operating, so you can bring it back in at whatever point. So you can also try to, you know, game that out a little bit if it made sense when to drop it. And for good measure, we'll just kind of flip through the different modes again. So into Flanger, and into Fazer. I'm going to cut out the other sounds here and just go with the chords here. And there you go. That is the Elektron Model Cycles paired up with the Disturbance. Really cool combination. Obviously, you hear all that movement between the LFO motion and the phaser and filter and flanger. It's hard for me to not to say flanzer because, yeah, you try. Trust me, not so easy. I think it sounds great. I think it's a lot of fun. Really cool being able to switch between the 3 different modes and control the intensity, freeze the LFO when you want to, and yeah, make this thing go a little nuts, which is always a fun pastime with Death by Audio gear. I think this would be really cool to use as an insert channel on my Analog 4. I'll send audio out to it and then return it back into the device. Just get some hands-on external control. So maybe I'll try that in a upcoming video. Yeah, so definitely come back if you're interested in that. Also probably try it with like a drum machine and just some other sound sources just to see what it can do. Also, big shout out to Death by Audio for sending this out for me to take a look at on the channel. Really appreciate that. I love checking out their gear. Because it's always a little bit more fun, and yeah, just I appreciate the wildness. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.